Good morning. We begin our time together in song with Enter, Rejoice, and Come In by Louise Raspini. Please make sure your microphone is muted so you can sing as energetically as you like. Let us join our voices together to welcome this new day we've been so blessed to receive. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Gwinnett. My name is Jan Taddeo. My pronouns are she and her, and it is my great pleasure and a privilege to serve our faith as a minister of this congregation. I'm so glad we can be together today. If you have a chalice and a candle at home to light in a few minutes when we do our chalice lighting, please grab that while I offer our words of welcome. We arrive from many places and many life experiences as we gather to recall our true selves, reflect on the meaning of our lives, and explore questions of ultimacy together. If you are here for the first time or for the 1,000th time, you are welcome here. If you believe in many gods, a god or goddess, no gods, or you're just not sure, you are welcome here. If you are gay, straight, bisexual, asexual, pansexual, transgender, cisgender, or still trying to figure it out, you are welcome here. If you're covered in tattoos or you're a blank canvas, you are welcome here. If you shout amen after every sentence or song, or if you prefer to sit together quietly, you are welcome here. If you arrive here sober or addicted or somewhere in between on your healing path, you are welcome here. If you are grieving or if you are celebrating, you are welcome here. Your whole self, all that you were, all that you are, all that you yearn to be, is welcome here, and you are just where you should be, in a room full of compassionate, thoughtful Unitarian Universalists ready to meet you where you are. You are home. If you are a newcomer this morning, we welcome you and hope you will find your spiritual home here with us. We are becoming a radically welcoming sanctuary in a green space. We foster spiritual growth as we joyfully nurture connections and community within our walls and beyond. If this is your first time here, I encourage you to join us several times to experience the full flavor of this congregation and this faith tradition. Come, be curious, courageous, and compassionate with us. And now let's all take a big, deep breath. Bring ourselves fully into this precious time we've set aside this week to be together. Bring every molecule of your being into this time, this precious time. As sound moves through us and around us, let us be reminded how deeply, profoundly, inextricably interconnected we are. with one another, with all life on this planet, with all the stars in the cosmos. The words for our call to worship come to us from Timothy D. Haley. Amid all the noise in our lives, we take this moment to sit in silence, to give thanks for another day, to give thanks for all those in our lives who have brought us warmth and love, to give thanks for the gift of life. Let us open ourselves here, now, to the process of becoming more whole, of living more fully, of giving and forgiving more freely, of understanding more completely the meaning of our lives here on this earth. Our chalice lighting words come from Nancy Reed McKee. Our community knows no boundaries. We are not confined by physical limits of walls, or, for that matter, of what often binds us, restricts us, holds us back. We are freer than we know when we release ourselves and each other from expectations of what is needed for true community. We are here together in space. I see you. I hear you. I love you. And I light this chalice, a beacon of this community, holding us all together, here, now. It's time to open our Wonder Box. Because Unitarian Universalists are very committed to curiosity and asking questions, we ask, what is in our Wonder Box? Okay. Well, there are some stones in here. They're small stones. I don't know how well you can see them. They're kind of small. And, but they're the kind of stones I think one could put in their pocket and carry around. Maybe some of you have heard of worry stones. These might be like worry stones. And then there's a pad of paper. Thanks to Habitat for Humanity, I am never short of paper to write lists on. And a pen. Nobody sends me free pens though. So these are related to our story today. The Worry Tree by Laura Wilkerson Spencer. The family had gathered at Grandma's house for their regular Sunday dinner. As usual, it was a lively gathering with lots of talking, arguing, laughing, and joking. 8-year-old Sarah sat quietly next to her grandmother. She ate slowly. She looked around at her family, and then she gave a big sigh. Grandma asked her, "What's the matter, sweetie? You aren't yourself tonight." "I don't know," Sarah said. "Well, are you worried about something? You look worried." Well, yesterday my friend Toby started playing with a new girl in class. What if she likes her better? And today Smokey, that's Sarah's cat, barfed all over the kitchen floor. What if he is sick? And this morning on the way to school, Dad was listening to the radio and the news sounded really scary. I thought about Cousin Mike being a soldier. What if he gets hurt? By this time, some of the others had stopped talking and started listening to Sarah's worries. They all had worries of their own and wondered what Grandma would have to say. I know how you feel, Sarah, Grandma said. I was thinking about Mike myself. Yesterday I got a letter from my friend Brenda, and she told me she was going to need surgery on her eyes. And the news sounds pretty scary to me too, sometimes, or all the time these days. She looked around the table and noticed that everyone was listening now. I have a secret trick that helps me when I am worried. I turn to a special friend when my worries get in the way of my work or make me feel bad. You see, I know that these worries don't help make things better. Holding on to my worries can keep me from making the best of each day. It can get in the way of my doing something that maybe can help. Oh, what's your secret? Who is your special friend, Grandma? Sarah asked. Grandma got up from the table and opened a drawer. She pulled out a pad of paper and some pens. Then she began to explain. When my worries are bothering me, I sit down and I write them on a piece of paper. Sometimes I just write a word or two. Other times I write and write until I feel all the worries poured out onto the paper. Then I take a walk out into the back of the yard. You know that big tree way in the back corner? Grandpa planted that tree when we first moved here. I call it Grandfather Tree. Well, Grandfather Tree has a hole in it. So I take my worries and I give them to Grandfather. I put them right in the hole. I ask him to hold these worries for me. I tell those worries that I don't want to carry them around with me right now. It doesn't mean that I don't care about Brenda or Mike anymore. It doesn't mean what is happening on the news doesn't matter anymore. It just means that I am not weighed down. It means I am ready to go on doing what I need to do, like be your grandma and have you all over for dinner. She gave Sarah a little hug. Do you want to try? Oh, yes, I do, replied Sarah. I really want to try. Me too, said all the others. Grandma passed around the pad of paper and each person took a piece. Soon everyone was writing. After dinner, while they were waiting for their stomachs to make room for dessert, they all took a walk to Grandfather Tree. Grandfather, please hold my worries for me, said Sarah. I need some help today. Then she dropped her paper in the hole, and the others did the same. They all stood there for a few moments looking at the tree, each one silently asking the tree to hold their worries. As they walked back to the house, they all felt lighter. They stood a little straighter. They were ready to go ahead into the next day, better prepared to face whatever would come their way. Thank you for listening to that story. I hope it offers something for you. The worry stones weren't in the story, but I think about those things that people will carry in their pockets sometimes, just to remind them it's okay. Just rub the worry stone and let it hold those worries for you for a bit. So now let us sing together When I Am Frightened by Shelley Jackson Denham.
Will you be strong for me? Sing to me. Our reading this morning is called Taking Hands and comes to us from Victoria Weinstein. I attended a day-long retreat on healing prayer some years ago at Dalesford Abbey in Pennsylvania. I was in my first year of parish ministry and having a tough time. I needed healing. I craved a way to pray that would open my heart, which felt closed and bruised. In the afternoon, the group was called into the chapel for a lecture and time of spiritual practice. The woman leading the talk started to lead us in prayer and invited us to take the hand of the person next to us. Oh, I thought, well, all right. I wish I'd come with a friend. There was no one standing to my left. So I glanced briefly to my right to coordinate my hand-holding with the man next to me. Just before my eyes met his, I saw that he had no left hand, but instead a stump where his hand had been. Within an instant, I had 3 subsequent panicked thoughts. First, and selfishly, a sense of terrible self-consciousness. Oh Lord, what am I supposed to do now? Next, also fleeting, what happened to his hand? I thought of war, of accidents, of birth defects, of disease that required amputation. And then finally, if I'm this uncomfortable, I wonder how he feels. I reached out and took his hand in mine, such as it was. In the moment of joining between hand and smooth place where a hand had been, I realized this man was no more damaged a human being than myself. We had both come to the retreat seeking spiritual renewal, healing, and fellowship. We were both in need, and we represented the larger circle of communities that needed us. As the leader read the meditation, I found that even though this man had no hand, he was, in fact, holding onto mine as surely as though he would. I could feel subtle pressure from the end of his arm, a sensation of phantom fingers pressing mine in solidarity and understanding. I don't understand how this is possible. And yet, I was not imagining it. What is essential is invisible to the eye, said the fox, famously in The Little Prince. That quote became unforgettably true for me in that long moment, my hand held by a hand that confidently embraced mine, but was in fact not physically there. We never exchanged words, but I will always remember with gratitude and wonder that unknown friend who taught me that when we reach out to one another in fellowship and care, we can overcome even seemingly impossible obstacles.
Thank you, Lydia. You gave great voice to Victoria's words. I appreciate it. Well, folks, it's been 6 months. 6 months. March 15th was our the first day we went to virtual church, virtual congregation. We went through spring equinox, summer solstice, autumn equinox, and we'll be doing this during the winter solstice as well. And we'll see after that. I love Victoria Weinstein's 2 things that she says in there. All of it is quite moving for me, but the quote from The Little Prince, what is essential is invisible to the eye. And when we reach out to one another in fellowship and care, we can overcome even seemingly impossible obstacles. And there seem to be a lot of obstacles in how we would create connection and community beyond our walls for all of us when this pandemic hit. But we're doing it. We did it together. We figured this out. We're still figuring it out. We're still honing and learning, not just Sunday morning, but all of the ways that we gather together during this virtual time. And worries, oh my gosh, there have been so many worries during this time. There's so many worries in life anyway, but during this time especially, the worries seem to be really ramped up, and the anxiety and the grief and the unknowns, all ages, all stages of life. We are worriers. That's what humans do. And a lot of that is based on fears about the future, hopes for the future, experiences from the past that tell us we ought to be worried about this thing. But community can ground us and center us. In our opening words, Nancy Reed McKee remind us that we are not confined by physical limits. We can connect even during this time of physical separation, physical distancing. And the guiding principle for this time, for our staff, for many of my colleagues, for many congregations, has been connection, not perfection. Focusing on connection. How can we do that well? How can we provide quality connection? And I believe it's here. I think it's here right now. I can feel you out there. And last Sunday, when this table was filled with prayer shawls and care shawls, and I asked you all to put your hands out and bless them, I could feel it. It was palpable. I could feel the energy coming through. I don't know how that happens, just like Victoria Weinstein didn't know how she could feel this man holding her hand, but it was there and it was real. I found a article in the Lion's Roar magazine. It's a Buddhist magazine, December 10th, 2019. And there's an article by Kenley Neufeld. And at the beginning of the article, he says, for many years, the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh has taught that it is probable that the next Buddha will not take the form of an individual. The next Buddha may take the form of a community practicing understanding and loving kindness, a community practicing mindful living. In the Buddhist tradition, this type of community would be called a sangha, a community of learning and practice. And in many ways, our community is a community of learning and practice. We are always learning how to become our better selves, how to be more radically welcoming, learning how to practice this faith, how to be Unitarian Universalists and live into our core values. We are practicing how to be in community, how to be understanding and compassionate. And I believe spiritual practices are essential, really important all the time, but especially during this time, during this pandemic. I think spiritual practices are important for our physical, mental, and spiritual health. I can't feel that strongly, and I can't relay strongly enough how important that is to me. And now the problem is daily with spiritual practices, people tend to think, oh, that's meditation. I don't do meditation. I can't sit. I can't make my mind stop thinking. That's not meditation, first of all. It isn't about making your mind stop thinking. It's about noticing your thoughts. I saw a great video, 5-minute video from a Shambhala Buddhist teacher who talked about meditation is 24/7. Meditation is awareness. It's everything we're doing. Are we aware of our thoughts? Are we aware of the feelings in our body? Are we aware of what our body is doing? Are we aware of the words that we are saying or are about to say? And so meditation is just being aware. I don't know how long ago it was, but it was when we were together physically in our building that I did a service that talked about Eric Walker Wickstrom's program, Spirit in Practice. And I had made these little handouts for people that identify his 8 areas of spiritual practice. And on the back, I had I put in 68 spiritual practices. So meditation is not the only choice. And among these 68, there are 64 that I think you can do with others, and some of them you have to do with others, things like social action and protesting and things like that. 13 of them could easily be done on Zoom. So you probably know where I'm going. Every day, Monday through Friday, at noon, for half an hour, I gather with a group of people who are in the same spiritual training program that I'm in, called Warriors for the Human Spirit. Meg Wheatley and Jerry Gwinnett are our teachers. And every day, this small group of us, usually 5 to 10 people, we gather to meditate. We meditate for 20 minutes, and then we have 1 minute each for a quick check-in. And we're given a prompt for the check-in. Whoever's leading that week offers the prompts. So it could be as simple as, what's one rose and one thorn that's showing up in your life? And it could be as complicated as looking more deeply at some of the teachings that we're exploring in this training. And I think this is really powerful that we do this online on Zoom. And Nancy Reed McKee, in our opening words, said we need to release ourselves and each other from expectations of what is needed for true community. So for instance, this same group had a retreat a few weeks ago while I was on study leave. It was 4 hours a day on Zoom. We've had retreats before, like in Zion National Park and Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, and really beautiful places where we're together 24/7 for 6 or 7 days. And we thought, oh, how in the world are we going to do this retreat online in just 4 hours a day and try to generate what we do in person? And our teacher had said, and please don't interact with each other outside of those 4 hours, and as much as possible, stay in dwelling mind, in silence as much as possible. Take it on as a personal retreat. And we all did that as best we could given our circumstances. And at the end of it, we were blown away by how deep and connected, even more connected, we felt. That 4 hours a day for 6 days on Zoom did not feel like a meeting. It didn't feel like a chore. It felt like people coming together to do deep soul work and connecting at a profoundly deep level. So this group is called the senior students. We are people who have been along in this training long enough that we are now assisting in training other people. And I asked them on Friday if some of them would hang out after our 30 minutes for a few minutes and give me some thoughts about communal practice versus solo practice. And they just had lovely things to say. They talked about how this communal practice supports their solo practice, because we all also have solo practices. I sit every morning for most mornings. I miss one now and then, but most mornings I sit for 20 or 30 minutes. It invites us into a deepening of our practice. For me, it's also part of accountability. I sign up to lead a week every now and then so that I know I have to show up and do this. It helps us to slow down. It's a marker for our day. Just like Sunday is a marker for our week, this is a marker for our day. They love how it puts us in community, giving and receiving, sharing something of our lives in 1 minute. And that made me think about our covenant groups, where small groups of 10 people gather to share something of their lives, to look for meaning, to go deeper. And in that, they get 5 minutes of silence in community, which is hard. It's hard to be silent in community when you're sitting with others. And it's such a great practice to be comfortable with the pause, with the gap in the conversation. It's a great way to deepen our listening as well, to just let that space be open. And then when people share, they each have 5 minutes to share from their heart, from their own stories in their lives, seeking meaning from the stories of their lives, uninterrupted, no questions, no advice, no back and forth, no, oh yeah, that happened to me and this happened to me, and none of that. It's just 5 minutes for each person to reflect, and it is powerful. So Unitarian Universalist congregations are like sanghas. And we can be both solo learners. Many of us do that. We read our books, we do our practices, we do all kinds of things alone to learn and grow in our faith. But we also need one another. We really need one another in communal space, both for the learning and I think for the practice. Because practice makes progress. And when we practice, we get better and better at whatever it is we are trying to do or be. Every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, I open my Zoom room, and it's open to anyone who wants to come in and chat with me. And I'm noticing that people aren't showing up very much. I had one Wednesday by myself, and don't get sad, it was okay. I have plenty to do, and I'm comfortable being with myself. But if you're not comfortable being with yourself, that's more practice. And sometimes it's one person, and we have lovely, deep conversations, so it's fine. And I also started to think maybe we need something of more substance there. So I'm going to try this and put it out there that my 2 o'clock session now will be a place to explore spiritual practices, where you can bring yours and I can share mine, and we can choose together to practice something together and then reflect on what that was like. Remember, there's 13 on this list. Some I can lead, others I really can't. So I'm hoping there will be people, and I'll reach out to some people and request that maybe some people could lead us in some practices that I'm not familiar with. And we can choose together what we do. In that same article in Lion's Roar, Ken Lee Neufeld concludes with these words: "To create communities of understanding, loving kindness, and mindful living," Thich Nhat Hanh said, "may be the most important thing we can do for the survival of the earth." May be the most important thing we can do for the survival of the earth. Meg Wheatley would call that kind of community an island of sanity. And when I've talked with her about this congregation, she says, "Oh, you are serving an island of sanity. Just keep it growing and glowing and engaging." So we are an island of sanity with open shores and open ports. We are calling people to our shores, people yearning for the kind of community we are, and the community we continue to become. We are becoming a radically welcoming community. We are a covenantal community, not creedal. We don't require you to believe the same thing everybody else believes. In fact, we grow by learning from others what they believe, and that opens up more doors for us. We are a community sustained by trust, compassion, and inquiry, building this community of love through those practices of trusting one another, being trustworthy, being compassionate, asking questions when we're unsure. We are walking together towards what we are becoming in curiosity, courage, and compassion. And as a community of faith, committed to creating a more just and loving and connected and compassionate world. It is our communal practices, I believe, that make us stronger in that effort and help us to take it broader into the world. May it be so. This congregation strives to create a model of the beloved community, the Sangha, where the Buddha might show up. We do this in part through the care and support of one another. We each arrive here holding joys and sorrows, triumphs and disappointments and worries. We set aside time in this communal space to honor that which we carry on our hearts, to celebrate together and to grieve together. If you would like your joy or sorrow shared aloud in the service, please share it in the chat space on Zoom, and our pastoral care associate, Rob Cole, will read them aloud as I light a candle of compassion to lift your joy or sorrow into the collective consciousness. I invite us now to Enter into a space of silent reflection as we create a container of compassion through the ether waves. we create a container of compassion to hold our joys and our sorrows. Into this container, we offer that which is most on our hearts to share with this beloved and supportive community. This candle is for all the joys and the sorrows, the celebrations, the triumphs, the challenges, and the worries that we hold in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we hold one another with compassion and loving kindness. Amen. And let us sing together, Filled with Loving Kindness, by a Buddhist metta meditation put to song by Mark Hayes and Ian Riddle.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole. May all be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be whole.
Our congregation is committed to creating a more compassionate world. To this end, each quarter we split our plate collection with an organization selected by the Give Away the Plate Committee that is doing good works in the wider community. Our third quarter plate recipient is El Refugio, located in Lumpkin, Georgia. El Refugio provides the Ministry of Hospitality and Visitation, serving immigrants at Stewart Detention Center and their loved ones. Many people in our congregation have taken part in this important ministry by visiting prisoners at Stewart Detention Center, assisting at the hospitality house, and donating much needed supplies for the house and for the immigrants who are deported or released. Our plate contributions also support the shared ministry of this congregation, so I ask that you please give generously to support the work of this important ministry in our wider community, as well as the vision and mission of our congregation. For our members and friends, a reminder that this is the time of year we ask for a commitment of financial support for our 2021 fiscal year. Pledge forms were mailed at the end of August, and there is a link on our homepage of our website to complete a form online. The link is right by Tony Nastri's video from last week of his sharing about his experience with pledge phobia. So far, we've already received over $53,000 in pledges, and we have an ambitious goal of around $160,000. We're working on the budget now. Please consider an extra generous level of support this year to support improving our building and our property in preparation for our return and expand our programs for justice and outreach in the coming year. I will be submitting my pledge this week. It's important to me that I pledge my commitment, financial commitment to this congregation, and that I give generously, because this congregation is an island of sanity that matters in the world and matters in our county and the surrounding areas. We have so much potential to continue to expand our circle of influence, and it matters to me that we have what we need to make that happen. If you are worshiping with us for the first time, your presence here today is a generous gift to this community. You may choose to let the plate pass. The offering will now be most gratefully received. May the generous gifts received today move us towards realizing our vision of a more connected and compassionate world. I am so grateful for Lydia Patrick and Rob Cole for their assistance with the service today, and always grateful for Christiana McQueen for managing our Zoom space and Russ Taddeo for running video and sound. Now is the time for our call to connection. Please seek ways to connect between Sundays. It's kind of the point of this service. So please find ways to connect and to connect in ways that are powerful and meaningful and help to build a sense of community. If you are new to our congregation, you can connect with us by texting welcoming, that word, to the number on the screen. You'll receive a few texts and emails for a few weeks to guide you in connecting and help you to get into a habit of showing up on Sundays and being with us. They won't last forever. It's just a short period of ways for you to get together with us. You can learn more about what's going on in our congregation by getting our weekly e-news. It comes on Fridays, and you sign up for that by sending an email to info@uucg.org and request to receive the weekly e-news. You can also go to our website at www.uucg.org if you haven't already, and there you can see a register for events button at the bottom of the screen of the homepage, and you can see all kinds of things that we are doing there, and you can register for our various activities so that we know you're coming. Also, we have a public Facebook page that I invite you to check out. If you're new to our congregation, I invite you to come today to our UU 101 Visitor Orientation Program, where you'll learn more about Unitarian Universalism and about this congregation. If you've already been to 101 and you are wanting to know more about the path to membership, you can join me in our UU 102 program also today. Both will start at 12:30. These will all be offered again on October 18th. They're always on the third Sunday of the month unless we announce differently, but usually on the third Sunday. You can register for those online, and today you can just drop in. The Zoom link is on our calendar on the website. So you want to go to our website, choose calendar, choose today, and click on those links. The Unitarian Universalist Association around the country, Unitarian Universalist congregations are taking part in or have created a nonpartisan effort to get the vote out called UU the Vote. And we are getting involved. And you'll see a link on Facebook, and there'll be one on our Facebook group, which is a private group that you can join. And also it will be on our website. It's in the e-news that came out this week. And you can go to uuthevote.org and find it there as well. And you get signed up so that you can join in the many activities that they're doing. This next Sunday, the 27th, from 2 to 3:30, they're doing text banking, primarily in New York and Georgia, to get the vote out. And this is in collaboration with the New Georgia Project. So I hope you'll join me in that, because I'll be doing that. And we are still collecting backpacks for Corley Elementary. The school kids are, a lot of them are back in the buildings and need those backpacks, and we need more of them to give to them. So there is a bin at the front entrance of our building. You can drop them off in the bin. Our early elementary program for our young people is taking place now at 12:30 on Sundays. We are currently using cartoons, a program that helps us to explore Unitarian Universalist values through the short films of Pixar animation. So we'll be doing that at least for the next couple of Sundays. And so you get the information about this by registering for our religious exploration program. So if you have a child in elementary age, or if you have a child preschool age, because we're also working on programs we'll be starting those probably in October, preschool programs, then please register your children for our programs. And you can also register yourself for our adult programs. The registration form, the link for that is also on our website at the bottom of the homepage. And speaking of adult religious exploration, next Sunday we have a program called Return and Repair to talk about how covenant is working in your life and what opportunities you might have to renew and revisit your personal covenants and do the work of repair, which is appropriate during this time of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And now, just to remind you that I'm going to switch up my Wednesday morning thing a little bit, Wednesday afternoon program, and invite you to come and join me to explore spiritual practices at 2 o'clock on Wednesdays. There is a link on our calendar at our website. Virtual happy hour is taking place Thursdays from 6 to 8. Also, we would like more attendance at this, so I hope that you will drop in. You don't have to come right at 6. You could come a little later. We could also use more co-facilitators so that the same person doesn't have to hold the space each week. And that would be really great if we could make that a community activity and everybody joining in to make that happen. The link again on our calendar. And then there's lots and lots of ways to connect. So get our e-news, check it out, see what's going on. Go to our newsletter you can find online on our website. Just look through our calendar and see what's coming up. Some highlights. Covenant Choir, we are now going to start making music. So if you are a singer, please join us on Tuesday evenings to find out about what we're doing. Our choir director, Michael Parker, now has the equipment he needs to help us create virtual choir offerings of our own. And you don't have to have been in the choir before. Just come if you like to sing. We could use all the singers we can get, and some shills would be good too, because I'm in the choir, and you know, we need people to drown me out. We have a lot going on, so look for ways to connect. And now let us extinguish our chalices to the words that we say as we do so, and then we will sing together Lean on Me by Bill Withers. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our service has ended, and now our service to one another and our wider community begins. Please continue to take precautions during this pandemic. It is still very real. Wear masks, keep your distance, wash your hands, keep your bubbles safe. Love you all. See you next week.